GameStop is dying, and it's all your fault. How does it feel to shatter my childhood memories? Midnight launches, hanging out with my friends and picking up the new Halo game, or browsing the used games section for some sweet deals. Or what about when you go to the register and they try to pressure you into buying their dumbass insurance program, or getting that used game instead of the new one, the one with that's missing the pamphlet with all the instructions and it's got a bunch of scratches on the CD. You want to buy that for $3 cheaper? You want to buy that used game for more than the new game's being sold for? GameStop, it's always so fun to go to your establishment. Yeah, the writing's been on the wall for some time now. Over these past few years, we've been hearing a lot of stories about how GameStop just isn't doing well, laying off employees, closing hundreds of underperforming stores, losing millions of dollars every quarter, and then the stock price has been plummeting as a result of all of this terrible news and just poor performance for the store. Just this year, they started at about $15 a share and have dropped down to as low as $3. Things are not looking good for GameStop. In fact, just this week, we got a bunch of news about a disappointing third quarter, with total global sales down 25%, with a total loss of about $83 million for the quarter. Quite a bit of money, but it wasn't too long ago where they reported losing nearly $500 million in one quarter, so I guess things at least aren't that bad. Off the back of this poor third quarter, they came out to specifically blame these results on the upcoming next-gen hardware. Really hard to believe that that's the actual cause, though, because again, GameStop has been underperforming for a long time now. So what is going on with GameStop? Why are things so bad? And are you really to blame? Is it me? Is it you? Is it GameStop? Probably mostly GameStop. There's a lot of things that have led into what we would call the downward spiral of GameStop. One of the biggest and most obvious ones is just digital sales. I haven't stepped foot in a GameStop in about 10 years now. It has been a long time since I've gone to the GameStop with the intent to purchase a game. You know, every once in a while, I'll just poke my head in there, check it out, be like, yeah, this still looks like shit. I've had no reason to buy a physical game in a long time. And even if I wanted to buy a physical game, GameStop isn't really even the place to go anymore. But just in general, digital distribution of games and people downloading their games and purchasing keys online has just overtaken the industry. Just taking a look at this one chart here that compares physical to digital game purchases over the past 10 years, you can see a rapid decline in physical purchases. And now this is just one chart of examples of game purchases in the US. I think it points to just what's likely the global trend of people downloading their games and not really getting physical copies. But there's still quite clearly a market for physical copies. People like to actually have a copy of the disc with their game on it. People like to make collections like that. People like to buy used games. So we're not totally in a position where there's no desire for physical copies, even though that market is growing smaller and smaller as more people adopt downloading games instead. But the problem is, besides the increase in digital purchases, they've got a lot of competition, like big box retailers like Walmart and Best Buy, basically offering the exact same thing that they do, and sometimes even at a cheaper discount. And then there's online retailers like Amazon and eBay. Many times you could get new games for cheaper if you just purchase them online and have them shipped to you. And then we've got GameStop's biggest earner, which is the used game market. You'll go in there with an old game, they'll give you some trade-in value to put towards another game, and then they will resell that game that they just bought off you at a much higher price. But it sucks. The whole process sucks. First of all, you get a really poor trade-in value. Like, you could bring a new game and they'll give you like $5 or $7 towards another game. Or you could just go onto eBay or Craigslist and sell the game for like $50 and get a lot more money. Now, obviously, it's a much more drawn-out process, but still, getting $5 or $7 for your used game versus getting like $40 or $50, it's really uncomparable. And then there's purchasing of used games. If you go to GameStop and you try to purchase a used game, they might give you like $5 off. Or you could buy a used game for $40 on eBay or Craigslist, like we just talked about. Just everything about it, except for the quickness of the process, that certainly has its value. Like, there's something nice about getting some value for something and then immediately applying it to something versus having to like email back and forth and having to get in touch and meet up with these people in person or ship it to them and pay shipping and handling, going to the post office. Like, clearly, even the convenience of being able to trade in for a much lower value, it's not worth it because again, things aren't going good at GameStop. And then finally, I think one of the biggest problems that they have is just how much it sucks to go to their stores. Talking about things like the sales practices with like super pushy employees trying to direct you towards buying used games and then purchasing some dumbass insurance policy for the game, or signing up for their points and rewards program, or convincing you to pre-order games 100 years ahead of time. And it's not an enjoyable experience. It can be pressureful, not very fun. You're not even getting the best value when you go there compared to purchasing at other stores or online. You're not going to get the best trade-in value. You're not going to get the best used game pricing. They've been even known to sell used games for more than they're selling new games. This has happened. This is crazy. There's so much around the package beyond the obvious answer of people are downloading games online more than they're buying physical copies nowadays. That is definitely happening, and that is the direction that the gaming industry looks to continue to be going in, even more so with the looming streaming of games with services like xCloud or Google Stadia, although that's been off to a poor start. Despite where that might be right now, downloading games digitally and potentially a streaming future that could come in 5 or 10 years from now, things are just looking terrible for GameStop. It does make me happy to say this, but it's one of those things where as things change, as times change, companies need to adapt with it. I mean, it's safe to say that there's a really good chance GameStop goes the way of Blockbuster. They just didn't adapt in time. There's so much stacked up against GameStop right now, it's hard to believe that they have any hope. I still think there's a chance. It's going to be a drastically different look, but they have to change because if they stay how they are right now, they're pretty much already dead. They have mentioned that they're planning to do some store revamps. There's an article here where they mention new ways to try games before buying them, having shops that cater to retro games and hardware, and even having esports competitions and homegrown leagues. We've seen some GameStop stores already change into more hobbyist stores with like tabletop and trading card events. We've also seen stores turned into hangout spots. Like a couple of months ago, someone posted on Facebook this really awesome looking GameStop revamp. It was just basically like a place to hang out with sitting areas. You could go there with your friends and chill for a little bit. That's the kind of thing that I think they need to move towards if they're going to have any chance at all, because just trying to rely on the used game sales, which they don't offer the best product, the new game sales, which they don't offer the best product, and the fact that all they offer is physical, which people are moving away from, there's really no hope if they stick along that path. So I think this idea of a store revamp is really their greatest hope. But even then, realistically, I can't imagine if they turn into these hangout spots or these hobbyist stores that they're going to be anywhere near the size that they were in the past. And maybe that's just a future that the owners and investors in GameStop just have to be comfortable with. Like, times are just changing. Simply, for me personally, again, I haven't stepped into a GameStop with the intent of purchasing anything in like 10 years. It's just been out of curiosity, like, oh yeah, I remember coming in this place when I was a kid. I remember a time when it made sense. I remember a time when it was exciting to go there and check out new games and shop for new games. Then the internet happened, basically. And everything that's come with it, all the conveniences and the ease. I don't want to get in my car and drive to a store to get harassed by some employees to sign up for some dumbass program and still not even get the best price most of the time, when I could just sit in my room and download a game and get all my harassment on Twitter if I feel like it. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. The fact of the matter is that physical sales are on a downward trend, and they're going to continue to stay on a downward trend because the convenience is just too good for people to pass up. Quite clearly, if you look at how things have gone for the past 10 years, people don't care to own a physical copy as they prefer the convenience of just downloading their games digitally, and that's not going to change. So GameStop has to change if they have any hope of surviving. So yeah, things aren't looking good for GameStop. It's not entirely your fault, but partially. Stop downloading your games. Go purchase physical games. Get harassed. Sign up for some insurance. Who's needing insurance for a video game? I guess if you bought insurance for Anthem, that might be good. What does the insurance cover? Does it cover a sucky game? GameStop, you're in trouble. You better figure something out, because we're not changing. It's not me. It's you, GameStop, all right? It's not my fault. It's your fault. Change. Why am I holding a comb? I don't know.